Hi, this is David Dickens, and today we are going to try something a little different. Everybody in Kansas City knows that the Chiefs are playing in the Super Bowl, going for the three-peat this Sunday, and Walter dug up three pretty fun quotes from Andy Reid, and we're going to try to bend them around such that they might give us a lesson or two about financial planning. So hopefully we don't twist these too hard. Hopefully it's a little bit of fun. I'll go get Walter, and we'll get started.
Do you need help protecting your finances as you enter retirement? David Dickens of KC Financial Advisors has got you covered. Welcome to the Cover Your Assets KC podcast.
Welcome back to another episode. It's going to be a good one today as David and I dive into, we're going to try to not just talk about the Super Bowl matchup the entire episode, and that's why we're kind of meshing this world of football and financial planning into one. And yeah, lessons from Andy Reid. So this should be fun. We'll dive into that in just a second. But David, you getting excited for the big game? Only a few days away.
I am getting pretty excited, although I'm getting a little nervous. Last time we played the Eagles, all the smart pundits were saying, the Eagles are going to crush the Chiefs. And last year, 49ers are going to crush the Chiefs. And this year, everybody I hear says, I think the Chiefs are going to wwin. So
interesting. Okay.
I like it a lot better when the smart people at ESPN and other places are picking against us. It seems to have worked out well in the past.
I haven't been, maybe this is because I have family in the Philly area and I know a lot of people in the Philly area. I've been hearing the opposite. I've been hearing, this is the Eagles game to lose this year. So that's I haven't been watching much of the national punditry in their conversation. So interesting that you're picking up that it's the KC's game to lose, and I've heard the opposite. But the betting lines, if you look at that, they're as close as you can get. It's like a 1.5 point pick, which is pretty much a toss up. So even
right.
Vegas isn't really giving its hand either direction.
Yep. Well, hopefully it's a super fun game, and hopefully the Chiefs win, because that would be pretty hyper cool to have the three-peat.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. Just the fact that never been done, right? They'd be the first.
And actually, this is the first time that a repeater, has ever made it back to the Super Bowl. So they've already made history.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it'd be pretty cool to knock
surprising
off
to me. I thought the Patriots would have made it for a third at some point during their run.
I know, but they didn't.
Okay.
Or the Steelers, or the
Cowboys, and whoever else has made runs over the years.
Green Bay. It's a bunch of. I think 9 teams have won it twice, and none of them ever made it back a third time.
Well, we're almost at the 60th Super Bowl, right? That's coming up next year, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it seems about time that somebody strung 3 together. So
yeah, that would be the four-peat on.
You're
Forget
okay.
I said
now
that.
You're getting over your skis.
Forget I said that.
I think Andy Reid would have something to say about looking ahead there. If
we better just get on with this episode.
We could throw an extra quote in here about not looking too far ahead and making sure to focus on the next opponent. So that's good. Well, you teased it, David, and we thought this would be fun. We kind of just roamed around a little bit and found some Andy Reid quotes from over the years, not necessarily related to the game that's coming up this weekend. And we thought we'd be able to spin some of these into some financial advice, and maybe you will disagree with the translation to the financial planning world as well on some of these. We'll just have to see where it takes us. Here's the first quote for you. We'll start you off with an easy one. Andy Reid said, "Every play is an opportunity, so make every snap count." I like that. Like, Andy's not afraid of a play. And it doesn't seem like he really approaches the game from, I'm just going to waste this play or use this play as just the blasé option. He's always looking for an advantage. Every play, he has that opportunistic kind of approach to it.
Yeah, and if every play is an opportunity, then what it meant to me is you don't throw any of them away, but none of them, the outcome doesn't ride on any one particular play, which, you can punch a hole in just about any analogy, and I'm not going to try to take that one too much further. But the way I decided to go with this one was with our younger clients and our younger listeners, and making every play count, or every snap count, or every paycheck count, or every month count, or every year between age 25 and 35 count. And where I'm going here is, if you practice systematic investing, every paycheck, for instance, you start young. A lot of what's on your side is the time value of money. And so the longer you're at something, the better you get at it, typically. I did a little, so bankrate.com, we've mentioned them before. They have a series of calculators on their website, and they're pretty good. They're not perfect. Maybe they're not the greatest, but they're not always trying to sell you something when you're using their calculators. So that's why I like bankrate.com. They have a real basic savings calculator, which is hopefully going to put a fine point on what I'm talking about here with making every paycheck count, making every snap count. Let's just say that you were going to save $500 a month until age 65, and it was going to earn about 7% a year, which is a little bit less than what the S&P would earn on an annual basis. And again, nothing we're going to say today is financial advice for you, but hopefully it's a thought starter. So if you're going to start saving that $6,000 a year, $500 a month, and you start at age 25 and you go up to age 65, just by using this simple savings calculator, you're going to end up with $1.23 million. But if you wait 10 years, do the exact same thing, $500 a month, no increase for inflation, which of course you would do in the normal world. But if you start at age 35, you're only going to have $584,000, less than half of what you would have if you started 10 years earlier. But what if you started at age 45? You said, I've been so busy in my 20s and 30s, but now I'm getting serious. The same $500 a month until age 65, well, that's only 20 years of savings. So instead of $1.23 million, or instead of $584,000, you'd only have a $253,000. And perhaps worst of all, if you get to be 55 and you're like, wow, I better get started, and you save that $500 a month until you're 65 and you earn 7% a year on it, you're only going to have $85,000 by the time you retire at age 65. So the point of this, I think, to bend Andy's point around this, is to make every snap count. I'd just say make every year, especially in their 20s and 30s, make every paycheck count. Every raise you get at your job, make it count by adding a little bit more to what you're putting away for yourself in the future, because when time is on your side, as Albert Einstein said, a compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. You start early, you are very likely to end up with a lot more than if you start late. So that was my first opportunity to bend an Andy Reid quote around to a financial situation.
I like it. It was a successful, attempt at doing that, David, I think. So fantastic. Congratulations. I'll see if I can challenge you a little bit more on this next one, perhaps. All right. So Andy Reid said, we don't focus on the scoreboard. We focus on the next play. I do have a little hard time believing whenever any coach says we don't scoreboard watch or we don't look at the scoreboard. I have a hard time believing that. But anyway, he said it, and he's been pretty successful at it, so perhaps it is part of the great strategy there.
Yeah, for me that meant, but it's not not necessarily the example I'm going to use. But if you get too focused on the scoreboard or on your 401k statement, and the stuff kind of hit the fan, and you see that your $1 million 401k just went down to $750,000 because the market went down by 25%, and you were totally allocated to stock, you might seize up. You might make a silly emotional decision out of fear or frustration, and that would set you back from what you're otherwise trying to accomplish on your financial plan. Where I was trying to go with this one, so that's super important, and that happens all the time, and people get way over allocated to stock in their 401k, because typically what you do on your annual reset is you go back and say, well, what did best last year? And in the majority of years, that's going to be an investment that's highly allocated to the stock market, which just sets you up for low diversification and a big hit to your balance when the market goes down. Okay, as long as you know that, that's fine, but people get surprised by that. But where I was going was to try to make this Andy Reid quote into something actionable and really current with the questions and concerns I'm getting from my clients. Kind of the setup here is, well, I'm really afraid of Trump, or 4 years ago, well, I'm really afraid of Biden, or just in the last couple of days, I'm really afraid of Elon Musk and what he's doing. or the tariffs, or, kind of you name it. And those are really easy ways. I have clients that say, we're way overdue for a 10 or 15% pullback, which is true, because 10% pullbacks in the stock market happen all the time. So those aren't things. So trying to trade around when you think a 10% pullback might happen, it's beyond really hard. And so what I always try to encourage my clients, and frankly myself to do, because I can get caught up in a little bit of emotion as well, is to focus on your financial plan. And what would a 10% pullback in the market do to your actual plan? And in the vast majority of cases, it doesn't really do anything to your long-term plan. There hasn't been yet a 10% pullback that lasted forever. We always come back.
It's a good way to put it, right?
That doesn't mean that I could think of ugly situations like Japan in the 1980s, or the NASDAQ in 2001 that took a decade to get back to even. But what you really want to, if you're feeling that, I ought to try to navigate the next 10% pullback, focus on your scoreboard, focus on your plan. Don't try to make an emotional decision and try to out-trick the market. If your plan will truly be wrecked by the next 10% pullback, well, you might have way too much risk in your portfolio, which would be really something to look at right now, because we are just nickels away from an all-time high. And it's been a long time since we've had a pullback. So it's possible that your investment portfolio is over-allocated to the stock market. Or if your plan will truly be wrecked by the next 10% pullback, then you probably don't have a real plan, a real written plan that you can look at and say, how should I be positioned if I'm on that type of razor's edge between financial ruin and financial success? So focusing on the next play, to me, means not trying to feel like you can outsmart the market, that you can dance around the next pullback. Chances are pretty good, when you've tried that in the past, you might have gotten out of the market. The market went up 10 or 12% before the next 10% pullback. So you missed out on what happened before the thing that you were actually trying to avoid. So I just encourage you to focus on the plan, make sure that you are well positioned, and the best time to do that is when you are at pretty close to all-time highs, and not after the market has taken a big tumble and you decide, wow, I guess I just did shoot a big hole in my retirement plan. Take a look at it, now, and then regularly. Every 12 months or so is how often I think you should revisit your plan to make sure that, you are on track, and that a 10% pullback won't cause you to make an emotional decision that will potentially goof you up for the long term.
I think this is where words matter, right? And this is a really important one to keep in mind, because Andy Reid didn't say we don't look at the scoreboard. That may be where I was misinterpreting it at the beginning, saying, I don't really believe that. He's saying we don't focus on it. We don't put undue attention to it. So we've got an eye on it, but we're not making it our everything. And that, it does make sense, and it is probably what helped them pull off that biggest playoff comeback in history back against the Texans a couple of years ago, right? The 24-point deficit, and came back to win that game. If they had been focusing on and stressing and obsessing over the scoreboard, they'd have acted differently. They probably wouldn't have pulled off the comeback. Instead, they stuck to their game, said, nope, let's not lose sight of what we're trying to do here, made the comeback, and made it all happen. So
yeah,
I see those parallels.
And you hear these guys say all the time, one play at a time.
Yeah.
We don't have to get it all back at once. There's a bit of a mixed message in there from a financial standpoint, but I think taking it one day at a time, one play at a time, one paycheck at a time, depending on where you are in your in the accomplishment of your goals, there's some wisdom in there.
Agreed. All great points. All right, let's get to our last Andy Reid quote here, and then we'll get ready to put the chicken wings on and get the nacho cheese melting and get ready for game time. Adjustments are not a sign of weakness. They are a sign of strategy. I like that. He's like, hey, just because I might have had the wrong plan at the beginning of the game, I'm not afraid to make an adjustment and put myself back on the right track.
Yeah, I love this too. And in this podcast, a lot over the years, we talk about, and frankly, people in my business, we focus on making sure that people have a plan, a long-term plan and strategy in place that they understand. So a lot of the questions I get are, can I retire early? Am I saving enough? Will my tax bill go up when my required distributions start? And so those are, as you're asking those questions and you have a plan in place, then it's easy to do some sort of what if calculation, what if discussion. Well, what if I actually do retire early? What if I increase my savings? What if I do a series of Roth conversions now, but before my required distributions start? Will that reduce the tax bracket I'm in forever once required distributions do start? So those are all questions that I go through on a somewhat regular basis with the clients I work with. They're super important. And the base of all of that, adjustments to what are not a sign of weakness. That's where I got off on this question. The Chiefs, every successful team goes into every game with a game plan, with a strategy. And hopefully, in our 20s or 30s, we set up a game plan or a strategy to get us to and through retirement. And then life throws you curveballs. Maybe you lose a job. Maybe you do take a massive hurt in your 401k in the 2008 downturn or the 2001 downturn or the next one that's around the corner. Maybe you have a spouse that dies early. Any number of curveballs can hit you right in the head. And then it's a matter of getting up, dusting yourself off, adjusting the plan that hopefully you already had in place, and realizing, oh, okay, I'm still good, but I do need to make this one course correction or two course corrections. And if you do that over the course of your financial life, I think where you're going to end up is ahead. I can say for myself and for a lot of clients I work with, you end up ahead of where you even dreamed you could have been 15, 20, and 25 years prior when you actually put a good plan in place and began adjusting it as your life changed.
Great points. Adjustments, make them. That's what wins you the game. That's what gets you from the 24-point deficit back into it. So you don't obsess over the scoreboard. You focus on the next play, but in those next plays, you adjust the strategy appropriately and view each of those plays as an opportunity. You can see how this all sort of rolls in on itself to lead to a winning football strategy and also a financial one as well. So David, thank you. That was fun going outside the box a little bit today. You did great with it. So.
We were out there with old Andy, so hopefully some of that made sense.
I think what's going to happen, David, is Andy's going to find this podcast before the Super Bowl, and he's going to do some reverse help from your financial lessons back into football lessons. And I bet this is going to be on the pregame speech featured on the national broadcast before the game. He's going to say, I was listening to this financial advisor in Kansas City, and here's what he said. And that's what we're going to go out there and do today. So,
yeah, well, I'm not going to hold my breath for that, Walter. But you know what? Maybe on the podium after the game as he's raising the Lombardi,
there you go.
He'll give a little wink into the camera, and that's for you and me.
That's right. If you see the wink, you know it's for the Cover Your Assets KC podcast. No doubt about it. Well, if you've got questions for David about your finances, of course, you can talk a little Chiefs football as well when you call in or come in to visit. But if you want to talk about finances, your retirement plans, your future goals, how to accomplish all of those things, what's the planning process look like, David's always there for you. You can find him at coveryourassetskc.com or call 913-317-1414. That's 913-317-1414. Schedule your complete planning review or just ask any questions that might be on your mind related to retirement and finances. David, thanks for the help. All right, give us your final score prediction for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this weekend. What do you think? And we'll fact check you on the next episode.
Oh man, that's a
Put
tough
me on the
one.
spot.
I'm going 31-24 Chiefs.
31-24 Chiefs. That'd be a nice high-scoring Super Bowl. That would be good. That'd be like the last one, right? It was a pretty high-scoring affair between these two teams.
It was overtime.
Yeah, that's right. So that would be some fireworks. I think that'd be a fun game. That's all I'm rooting for. Just give us a great game. That's
Well,
what
I'm rooting for a little more than that, but
You've got a little more
to each his
personal,
own.
a little more personal pull there. I would definitely be fine with a Chiefs victory there. All right, my friend. We'll go Chiefs, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Walter.
Thanks. Talk to you soon, David, and appreciate everybody listening. We'll see you again next time on Cover Your Assets, KC. Advisory services offered through Creative One Wealth, LLC, an investment advisor. KC Financial Advisors and Creative One Wealth, LLC are not affiliated. We are an independent financial services firm helping individuals create retirement strategies using a variety of insurance products to custom suit their needs and objectives. The information and opinions contained in this program have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are given for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. The information is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. This material has been provided by a licensed insurance professional for informational and educational purposes only and is not endorsed or affiliated with the Social Security Administration or any government agency. It is not intended to provide and should not be relied upon for accounting, legal, tax, or investment advice.